All right, Packers. Good to be with you. I tell you what, it's going to take a lot of these videos before it starts to feel normal. But um, good to be with you. I'm in a good mood today because the day I'm recording this, I got to see and talk to some students who took advantage of that Schoology conference time that I set up. And if you didn't have time for it, not a big deal. But know that I think it's going to be a tool we're going to need. Um, as this distance learning likely continues, right? We know the governor of Minnesota, who hopefully you know by now, at least his name. The governor probably is going to announce this week whether we're going to continue this distance learning for the rest of the school year or not. If we look at other states around the country, we think it's likely we will continue in this model. But as you know, at a time when there's so much unknown, it will be good to just know something for sure. So again, hope you had a good day. Weather seems like it's going to continue to stay nice, which is good. Today we've got a short assignment, and then many of you have already taken advantage and completed the assessment, but I want to make sure people have a chance to do that and ask questions with that. And then also just a note, right? Ramadan begins not today or tomorrow, but this weekend. And we want to keep that in mind, whether we're practicing the 5 pillars of Islam, which you learned about in ninth grade, or perhaps you've known about for a long time, or not, right? It was Easter several weeks ago, Orthodox Easter just the past weekend, lots of different holidays in the spring, going back a long time, right? As the seasons change, many cultures want a holiday to kind of signify that, recognize that opportunity. You know that you have no school on Friday, which is why it's a good idea to take Mr. Ochaki up on his request to fill out that survey, which you can find on Schoology. Just talk to you about the assessment, mentioned the Schoology conferences, and then just want to repeat, as I have all year, late work is okay, right? The goal here is that you learn, and if it takes you more time to learn, the point is that you're learning. So if you do have late work and you know you have Friday off, let's try to take advantage of that and maybe get caught up, or at least send out an email or two to your teachers. As always, thank you so much for those of you who do reach out over Schoology and email. First of all, it's just fun for me to get to hear from individual students because I don't get to see you in the hallway. But also, it's really probably the best way for me to help. Super easy for me to set up a Google Hangout for you as well. We can just either talk like we're on the phone, or we can see each other and get some of those things answered. Quarantine songs, last couple of do nows I asked you about were music involved. So you had some good ones, people had some good ones, and I liked the kind of their explanation on why they were listening to this music now. Will J's songs, Upbeat. This one I thought was good. I was familiar with Lord's first album, but haven't heard more of her recent stuff. Reminds me, makes me realize I want to go outside and be a kid before it's too late. That's a good one. This one, had to put this one up there too. My Girl by the Temptations. If you don't know it, I don't really care what kind of music you like. I really think you're going to like that. And then had to throw in one for my country fans as well. A couple of votes for Tongue Tied by Grouplove. So tomorrow, to be streaming that to hear what that song's all about. Now, just a little bit of trivia, or not really trivia, but just kind of to tie it all together. Finish this famous phrase from World War II, Great Britain. Keep calm and carry on, right? So quick note about that, keep calm and carry on. Let's see if I can get this to advance. I know there's another slide here. There we go. Keep calm and carry on. So you can see the poster got cut off there, but you've definitely seen, if not that poster, some kind of joke or meme on that poster. Really quickly, before the United States got into World War II, after this event called Dunkirk, which some of you watched the movie on, it was really the Nazis versus Great Britain. Was really or you could even say the fascists, the Axis powers, versus Great Britain. Great Britain was the only country left that hadn't been taken over that was still willing to fight. And literally, London, the capital, every night for a stretch of days, they would just go to bed knowing that the German Air Force was going to fly over London and drop bombs. And they would either have their place be bombed, or they would wake up and have to put out fires. Obviously, they were hiding in the basement and in bomb shelters and stuff. So that's real, and that's something that's a huge part of Great Britain's identity. That during World War II, when no one else was willing to fight, the regular citizens of London simply just had to deal with that every day, and they knew that if they quit, that the fascists would win because there was nobody left to fight against them. Now, the interesting thing, so you can see why this poster was created by the British. Now, the interesting thing is that it actually, while it was created during World War II and is kind of famous as this famous, it actually wasn't used very much during the war. It was an idea, but they didn't actually print that many of them. But the message is still really strong and can be a helpful thing. Now, in history, we want to be careful not to make too many things seem the same. Certainly, the Blitz, which is what this bombing was called, is not the same as the coronavirus, not suggesting that. However, this idea of knowing that things aren't going to change overnight makes this kind of poster, for some people, a helpful reminder that we are not the first group of people to live in cities and know that this sort of challenge was going to be there for a while, as the citizens of Great Britain and London in particular did. They knew that during World War II. Okay, so thanks for humoring me on that little piece of trivia, tying it into our situation. Now, the brief assignment that I want you to look at today is about the Shoah. Now, everything about today's assignment is short, but it's also, I want you to maybe look at things a little bit differently. That's why I'm using this term, the Shoah. You, of course, know about this event as the Holocaust. The Shoah is simply the Hebrew word, and Hebrew is the language that's important to the Jewish people, in particular the Jewish religion, Judaism. So that is the phrase or the term that's used. And so we're going to look briefly, because of course everyone is familiar with 6 to 10 million people killed by the Germans, targeted because of who they were, not just Jewish people, although they were the target in the largest numbers, but people part of another group called the Roma or the Gypsy, homosexuals, people with disabilities. All these people were targeted, and the goal was not just to kill some of them, but to destroy the whole entire group, which of course we call genocide. So I'm going to have you take a look at, and I just want to briefly show you what I want you to do with it. Now, this picture is one of those pictures almost not worth talking about, because unless you see it, it doesn't really ring true. But if you're ever lucky enough to go to Washington, D.C. and go to their Holocaust Memorial Museum, you must go. It's very powerful. And what this picture is from the museum, and these are the shoes of the concentration camp prisoners who would get to the train, and they would be taken all of their supplies, their shoes, their coats, their glasses, everything. And you walk through this, and it is the actual collection of shoes from one of the concentration camps. And you kind of get a sense of how many people were at this concentration camp. And then you just connect every pair of shoes with a life that didn't continue. And so I just remember this, it's a tight feeling in my chest as I walked down and looked at those things. Super powerful, super sad. So please read the directions. But all I want you to do is watch, read, or listen, you get to choose, to one of these sources and answer one of the questions. That's it. So there's a clip from this fantastic HBO miniseries about World War II called Band of Brothers. Now, if you don't like violence, it's not your ticket, and if you're privileged enough to have access to HBO or the DVDs, it's an incredible story. So it's just a short clip. Wish I could show you the longer clip, but I can understand why HBO doesn't really want its stuff on YouTube. So it's a very short clip of when the soldiers arrived at one of the satellite camps. This, if you're more of a reader, is just an article about this particular ship. And then if you don't want to read or watch, there's a short podcast that I think is a really great history podcast that talks about this ship. Now, obviously, this is a very short assignment, and the reason it's short is because I want the focus to really be on assessment 7.1, answering those 4 or 5 questions that you've been assigned. I think that's all I need to remind you of. Again, even though we don't get to see each other, I really appreciate working with you, and I hope all is well, and I hope you reach out if you need any help. Thanks so much for watching, and have a good day and a good long weekend, as I won't see you or won't talk to you with new content until next week. Take care.